God, what happened? Like, what'd I do? The dude tore his ACL
At a fantasy camp.
at a fantasy camp, all because BVG wouldn't have called all out blitz and warm-ups. But I said, I think it was Jim Russ who was still our trainer. Maybe it was Mike Bean who's been there forever.
I love Mike Bean.
But I said to him, I was like, hey man, they want the real experience. I was like, that happens. That ish happens.
No, so I mean, I definitely want to talk about the NFL and Notre Dame again, but definitely want to get into just the current topics right now as far as college football. I mean, the whole conference changing. Of course, Notre Dame's in the media now because it's like, do they join a conference? Do they stay out of it? All the media days are starting to happen. So, what's your take? What's has been your take on just all that going on right now?
I think it's their landscape is changing to really the haves and have-nots. You know, I think what happened was during COVID when a lot of schools were hit financially, people started to like look at their bank accounts and look at their accounting books and going, okay, hold on a second. Like, we need to reevaluate some things. And I think it kind of brought to light the disparity between the SEC, what will be this Big Ten TV rights deal, and then everywhere else in college football. And I think what happened from that is schools started to look for safe harbor. They stopped thinking about their affiliation to a conference, and I think they started thinking about like what's in their best interest for their student athletes and their university moving forward. And that's where I think you saw the movement of Oklahoma and Texas. Because if you recall, I mean, the Big 12 had to swoo Oklahoma and Texas to stay the first time around. Like, this isn't the first time like they had potentially left the Big 12. So, that once that happened, I think it planted that seed in other teams' heads about, okay, maybe we need to look into this too. And for like USC and UCLA, I think it comes out of left field for a lot of people because they're like, hold on, these like two LA West Coast schools. What are they doing in the Big Ten? I mean, if you're the Big Ten, I mean, it expands your geographic footprint. You've got 25,000 alum from the Ohio State University out in California alone, just in California. So think about how excited that fan base is. Right. And now you're able to enter into a TV window that didn't exist for you. I told you guys before we came on and started filming this, the noon Eastern window is the most watched window in college football, at least according to last year and the way the trends have been going. So if that's the case, and you're on Pacific time, like you're not playing home games at 9 a.m. Eastern, right? So you got to find ways of getting into those games, and the way you get into them is now being a part of the Big Ten. So it has to do with, to me, I think a number of things, but most importantly, how much money they're able to get from these TV rights deals, and then the stability when it comes to how they're going to be impacted for, playing for national championships and this conference realignment. And I don't know that we're going to see much more. I mean, that's just my guess, but I would say this. I mean, I don't know that it's done. I don't think we're going to see as much movement as everyone else thinks we're going to see.
What is your thoughts on like the health of the sport going forward? Because you talked about the haves and the have-nots, and I'm from Syracuse, and we obviously don't have the same football background as an ND or even a USC.
Right.
And I feel like it's becoming like more of a national versus a regional sport.
100%.
I live in upstate New York now, and the passion for football is not even close to where it was back in Ohio, let alone the SEC. I guess what is your thoughts on just like the health of the sport going forward? Because as a kid, it was such a national sport, and now it's becoming more regionalized, I guess.
See, I would actually argue the opposite. I think it's a regional sport, and it's becoming more nationalized. And I think you're seeing that with different brands that resonate. And honestly, when you look at it, there's only so many windows you can be in, right? If you're going to be on national television, on whatever network has the rights for you. Whether you're Fox or ESPN, you have noon, you have 3:30, you have 7 p.m., 7:30, whatever, that time actually ends up kicking, and then that 10 p.m. late one. But your three biggest windows are that noon, 3:30, 7 p.m., which is very similar to the NFL scheduling, right? How the NFL has become the most watched sport in the entire country. Well, college football is the second most watched sport, and those windows are setting up or stacking up very similarly. So the hard part about making it more national is you could only make it more national for a handful of teams because you only have so many TV windows to deal with. Right. So there's going to be some teams left out, and that's like the unfortunate part about realignment and where things are going. But in the end, I do think it'll be greater exposure and better for college football. It's only going to highlight student athletes more and help them become more household names. I think you look at, other sports and the way they prepare those guys to be household names coming into the draft. I think you see a fair amount of that in college football, but I think the kids that you see go, like Zion Williamson, right? He goes to Duke, and then he like just not even like the full year, like the shoe exploding, the dunks, everything else. Like he only played 1 year there, and you're like, you knew who that dude was when he was coming to the NBA. I think to a degree there's some of that, but like, maybe Bryce Young because he won the Heisman, but like, do people know how good C.J. Stroud is? Do people know how good the kid down here, Tyler Van Dyke, is a quarterback for Miami, or Will Levis at Kentucky? Like the guys who are probably going to be first-round picks, top 10 picks, top 20 picks next year's draft. Like, I don't know. And so I think it'll elevate the top, 1-2% who are going to be going to the NFL. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some programs and teams that are going to be hurt by this.
What do you think about the whole bowl game stuff now? So it's and specifically the Rose Bowl.